It is Saturday night, March the 20th. Now, March the 20th is first day of spring. It's what's called the vernal equinox. You have the autumnal equinox, which is September 23rd. That's my birthday. And then you have the vernal equinox, which is right now, which if you're at some temples in Mexico, I think maybe Chichen Itza, when the sun sets, it looks like a snake, the way that the light goes down the stairs. You have to be there at the exact right moment in time. Oh, I got a thumbs up. That means I got it right. Producer Stanton's so smart. He's always able to let me know. I've given myself a Cuban dry clean. I just want to let you guys know that I'm enjoying the shorter locks because Producer Stanton likes Cuban dry clean. Let me explain what a Cuban dry clean is, and I can say it because I'm a quarter Cuban. When I was younger, I had like favorite clothes. I'm like an overgrown child, even today. I had favorite clothes, and a Cuban dry clean meant that I would put whatever I wanted to wear that had been worn a lot out in the air. Just like put it over a chair overnight. And then before school, before I would take a shower, I would pretty much, depending on if it was my favorite jeans or a dress, spray the important parts. I would spray the pits, the crotch, just from a distance, just kind of, and then let it air out. And then I'd shower and get dressed, because when you really, really like stuff, whether you want to know this or not, washing and dry cleaning things wears them out. The more you like something and the more you wear it, if it's knit like this dress, it gets pilled. So after I figured out how to Cuban dry clean my clothes, as I got older and I was a road comic and I was always in a hurry, I always had a Cuban dry clean kit, which is basically, now they have all kinds of special super niche wipes, but back in the 90s and early 2000s, it was pretty much baby wipes. So I always traveled with baby wipes, a wig that looked like my hair, and red lipstick. You can pretty much fix anything with baby wipes, a wig, and red lipstick. And so today, I was explaining to the 330 group, and we're moving forward on some new things. I've been in touch with Hector Baez with trying to integrate more people into more things. He's done some Zoom beta testing to see if we could even get groups together to have sort of conversations in groups, and then we would record them and put them on YouTube, etc., etc. So oh yay! So my gym in my building has reopened selectively, and to get into the gym is like Studio 54. It's like the red velvet rope. Like, you have to go on, because of the way the link works. We have an app called Building Link. Hello, thank you for welcoming me. So we have an app called Building Link, and it's really cool. It's an inter-building website where you can ask for a maintenance claim. You can sell stuff. People sell stuff when they're moving. You can post pictures of things that you want to sell, or if you have a parking space to rent or whatever. So it's kind of groovy that we have the Building Link app for our building. I'm sure they have building links for every building in different ways, but this is specifically to our building. And you have to log on to the app. And I'm telling you this for a reason. You have to download the app. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I'm one of those people. It's like, I don't like having a ton of apps on my phone. Some people love it. I have a girlfriend. She's got 4 screens of swiping with like every app known to man. It's like a thing for me. Like I downloaded PixArt because I wanted to be able to put like stars and rainbows on things. Whatever. Ask me how many things I put stars and rainbows on. Anyway, you download the app. Then you got to sign on. Then you've got to go to the fitness, scroll down, and then they got drop tabs, and then they've got schedules. And it's just like booking a seat on Southwest Airline. It ain't over till it's over. Like, I had a 4:00 Thursday, but I guess I didn't hit schedule fast enough and somebody else got it. And it's like a thing. It's like trying to get a good seat. So once you book your hour in the gym, I wasn't, you're not going to miss it. You're just not going to miss it. And I find, here's the byproduct. I have found that when you commit to that, setting an alarm, going on the app at midnight on Saturday night, Saturday into Sunday, because that's the time you have to do it. And last week I didn't do it till 12:15. I forgot. And all the good positions were like, people are waiting, you know. And it reminds me in a weird way, and we'll circle back to the app for a reason. Do you remember when record albums would come out? When an album would drop at like Tower? I remember seeing a line at midnight in front of the Tower record, people waiting. Okay, all right, you're going to be like, how old are you? You already know. For Guns N' Roses, Use Your Illusion. I remember seeing people in line because the truck was going to deliver the album. Do you remember when people would wait in line for the new stuff to come out at the Mac store, at the Apple store? There would be lines, like people would camp out. Do you remember when people would camp out overnight to be the first people to see a new Star Wars? One of the things that I miss, that I feel is starting to come back, is good old-fashioned excitement and enthusiasm. I live across the street from a Funko store, Funko, and they sell little cartoon statues. Some of them are special edition. And even during COVID, people would line up down Hollywood Boulevard, 6 feet apart, for little Funkos. And I don't even know, like, somebody gave me a Wonder Woman Funko. I didn't, evidently they're worth something. I saved it. I'm grateful for it. You waited for the new Beatles record. You're old as dirt. Oh, Susie, no, you're not. You're delightful. I just remember that enthusiasm. I remember when H&M came out with the Versace collection, and I waited in line just to see what it was about. I made friends in the line to be the first person. I remember when Target would have like the Missoni collection, and then it would all end up on eBay hours later after everybody waited in line. People that did buy it would just resell it at 3 times, 4 times, 10 times the price. Enthusiasm is back, boys and girls. I was excited to get my hour at the gym, and I sweated. It took me a long time to even get dry enough to give myself the dry clean. But as I was on the treadmill, oh, and by the way, I committed a semi-building wide crime. Here's the crime I committed. The gym is one household at a time. It's like a pod, like people that you're with. So you can only have one household at a time. And when I showed up at 5 o'clock, there was a guy working out. And I always feel like it's wasteful in a big gym where we could easily be 20 feet apart for me to be the only person in there. So I told him, I said, look, I'm not going to rat you out. If you want to finish your workout, I'm just going to be over here on the treadmill facing the window anyway. And the guy was so nice. It's like I slipped him some kind of like, really? I can stay? We can be in the same place? And I'm thinking to myself, this whole thing, I'm just going to say it. I'm not a full-on rule-following, brown-nosed, kiss-ass, whatever you want to say. But I do like order. And I do things the way I'm supposed to do it. But I got to be honest with you. There's so much that's arbitrary to me. When they say, like, keep your mask on the whole time, unless you're actually eating. All right, I understand. If something's going in your maw, you're just like, there's a pretty good chance you're not going to cough and the germs aren't coming out because something's going in. So, okay, that makes some kind of sense. But even if you're not a cynical or sarcastic person, even just reading the memes, it makes sense. It's like, let's face it, if you break wind, if you fart, everyone around you can smell it. So can't germs get out of your mask the same way a fart gets out of your Lululemons? But again, It's arbitrary. Like you go to Marshalls. Like during the whole COVID, Marshalls was open. They had shortened hours, and they only let X amount of people in the store, and you had to wear a mask. And they would say try and stay 6 feet apart. But you know how Marshalls is. You got all kind of people crowding your space and getting up on you. And then you step back, and then you're the bad guy. Like, hey, you are not 6 feet away from me. I understand. These purses are on sale, and you want one too. But the whole notion of what's right, what's wrong, 6 feet apart, you can eat outside in an enclosed tent. The tents are enclosed, right? But you can't eat inside of a restaurant because, like, the germs love walls. But like, oh, the fact that this is a tent tells the germ, don't stick. So many businesses built these patios and tents and, you know, lean-tos and all of this situation so that, you know, we could do whatever we needed to do. And I circle back around, and I'm going to say something hideous because guess what? I don't care. But I would love to. Hey, Thousand Oaks is sending me love. Randy Maynor. I love Randy. Randy used to listen to me on KFI. I would love to know the statistics on homeless people dying of COVID, because I will bet you that they have incredible immune systems. I used to always laugh. Granted, I'm not in any way making fun of the homeless. I'm just saying you don't see that many bald homeless people. Like, homeless men usually have hair like a woolly bear. And it makes you wonder if being stressed out and keeping up with the Joneses makes you lose your hair. I mean, think about the last time you saw a totally bald homeless person. It's rare. And the only reason I'm even saying that is because whether it's a mental health issue, whether it's a certain resignation of an understanding of your circumstance, it's one of those like antidote things. Like, I bet you that the immune system of homeless people is better than some of the people that were running around in hazmat suits, squeezing Purell all over themselves every 5 minutes. So much of the last year is just arbitrary. It's just somebody decided something should be done some way. And we were all like, okay. And I'm the first one to tell you. I'm like, okay. Because life is too short to swim in the wrong direction. That's why all my friends that were like, I'm having my rights taken away from me. How hard is it? You notice that when you were a cop. I love that thank you, producer Stanton, for popping stuff up more than usual. I like it. I like Saturday night. I mean, not exactly like the 3:30, but I do like the interaction. I do like feeling like I'm not just talking into the void here. But, you know, I feel like if somebody tells me, eat outside, wear a mask, wash your hands, stay 6 feet away, who cares? Oh, okay. Like my girlfriend, Tina was involved with a very challenging man. And she's a strong little thing. You know, there was a time when she could have probably been described as a quasi hood rat. And she was wearing these short shorts, and he was kind of a little bit possessive and jealous. And she relayed the conversation to me, by the way. I wasn't there when this happened. So she was wearing these short shorts in the parking lot. He had come to visit her, and they were talking in the parking lot, and she was wearing these short shorts. And he said, please don't wear those shorts again. I don't like them. And they got into this whole, like, you're not the boss of me, and blah, 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 blah. And she said that it escalated pretty quickly, and that at some point he stopped in complete exasperation and said to her, what part of your soul must die that if I ask you something nicely, you'll just say, okay? And I remember when she told me the story, the ambivalence in her voice of, I don't know how to feel about that. And sometimes, just like a germ, ideas are carried to you from another person that didn't even know that they were carrying See, she was a carrier of that notion. I don't know that it even registered on her. But I'm I'm the kind of person that wants to save my might, my energy for things that matter, that rise to the material. So interestingly enough, after she told me that, whenever I feel resistance or some sort of anxiety, I ask myself, in the most literal sense, what part of your soul must die that this will be okay? And when I really think about it, it's biblical when you hear there's an expression that says you must die to the flesh, you must die to. And I didn't go to Bible college. A lot of people, things I say, they go, that's biblical. And I'll be like, well, thank you. I didn't know that because I'm not a scholar. I know what I know just because I'll look stuff up. Like you were terribly and wonderfully made. Like, I love that. You know, I looked up what it actually meant. Just because I'm interested in writing and communication and words and the origin of words and the power behind a phrase, like what part of your soul must die. That's powerful stuff. And so when people come to me and ask me questions or tell me things, and producer Stanton, let me get back. Sorry. That's so strange. I hit the wrong button to try and get rid of something. By the way, boys and girls, there's an app that I don't recommend. I'm just telling you now. Talk about downloading apps. I have a girlfriend that said, you have to download the Citizen app. And I was like, why? And she said, because it tells you everything going on. And it's like back in the day when people were on CBs like Breaker 19, This Here Rubber Duck, or when even before that, where you would hear about people in the 50s and 60s that could figure out what the police bandwidth was, what the scanner was, and people would listen in to hear the dispatchers telling the cops where to go. Well, this is like Ways of crime. You know, like Waze tells you how to drive and it's metadata. This is Citizen, and it'll tell you, like, there's an assault on the corner of blah, blah, and blah, blah. Well, just now it flashed, which is what I was trying to get rid of the screen. There's a car engulfed in flames on Sunset and Vine. It's like, I don't need to know that. I'm not leaving my house. Yeah, that could be engulfed in flames. Producer Stanton is so good at putting up stuff that makes me laugh. So I'm going to tell you right now, do not download the Citizen app unless you want to stop. Hey, Pittsburgh, PA in the house. Unless you want to stop walking around your neighborhood. You know, I feel like I'm aware of things. I'm alert. I have eyes in the back of my head. And I do the basics, which is, number one, don't walk around with those little white douchebag. I don't even own them. I don't even want them. Those little ear things that people put in, those earbuds, and they wear them all the time. It's just like little white earrings. Like, I grew up in Miami in the 80s. Pay attention. Pay attention. Don't have something in your ear when you're walking from place to place. Now, I do listen to podcasts when I'm speed walking in Hancock Park. But Hancock Park is an incredibly safe neighborhood. And even then, I do a kind of sweep of the surroundings. I constantly look around. I would see if somebody's 20 yards away from me in any direction while I'm listening. You'd have to jump out from behind a bush that you've been sitting behind for a long time to get this girl. So I don't need the Citizen app to be scaring me all the time. But I will tell, I like Susie popped up. I will tell you that people are so distracted. I see people walking down the street. I'll get back to Tina in a minute. They will run over you in Miami. Yeah, they will. Hope Pisa. Hope's on here. Yes. Jose Ortiz. I love seeing you guys here with me. Jose used to always listen to the KFI show. So the reason I see people so distracted, they're walking down the street and they're just sitting there, you know, texting and looking down. And I see people trip and stumble because they're not even paying attention that there's a divot in the sidewalk or a crack. and they got their little white douchebag earrings in, and they're not listening. And I'm like, how unawares are you? Sometimes the mischievous part of me just wants to walk up behind people and give them a giant wedgie. Just grab their underpants and pull them straight up. And half the time it'd be very easy to get a hold of them because they got the saggy pants. Just to show them, hey, pay attention. You're going to get a wedgie. Because an enormous amount of crime is crime of opportunity. It's just too easy to commit because people aren't paying attention. And I think that going full circle and talking about, what part of your soul must die, like, how badly do you need to answer that text or be having that phone call in public? Or see, this last year remember when you were a child and you had your outdoor voice? Remember when your teacher would talk about your outdoor voice? I think being on lockdown, and not because I felt I had to or anybody was going to come after me because everything was arbitrary. I think it's heightened my personal desire to conduct myself with a heightened level of civility, with a heightened level of awareness, with a heightened level of, yeah, we have to be 6 feet away. But be honest, sometimes we're not careful about personal space. 6 feet apart has brought that back. It's brought back manners of people saying, excuse me, when you get too close, or when you're crossing paths, or when someone's coming through a door and you're going in and they're coming out. And I feel like fighting against all of this and being angry and shaking the angry fist at COVID for changing our lives, even if some of the changes didn't make any sense, is going to steal your enthusiasm and your excitement and your momentum coming out the other side of this. Because we are coming out the other side. Disneyland's reopening. That was the first thing I said when I was in Australia, before I even started the 3:30, when I would just post things on Facebook. And I was all the way on the other side of the world a year ago, almost to the day. And they're like, the NBA has called off games, and little by little things were shutting down. And I thought, I'll believe this is really a big deal when Disneyland closes down. Bam. And here's the deal. I just got an email yesterday. Believe me, people that know I love Disney, I was inundated with messages from people saying, Disney is reopening. Not Disney World, it's been open. Disneyland in Anaheim is reopening next month. So I'm here to tell you that means this is the vast majority of this is behind us. And the parts of my soul that needed to die during COVID have died. Whatever I need to do, sign a waiver, wear a mask, be sprayed down in Purell and gooped, whatever they want to do to me so I can get back into the Magic Kingdom or on a cruise ship or on a plane, I'll do. I'm going to get a vaccine. I don't want to. I got to be honest with you. I don't trust them. I'd like to get the one because I figure if you got to get one, just get anyone. And the fact that people are trying to tell me that this the Modena is better than this one, is better than that one, I don't care. I think it's all Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos chipping me. I do. I'm sorry. I mean, not exactly. But the point is, I don't trust that these things are going to, that I need them. Let's just put it that way, that I need it. But I'll do it. And if I've got to, I've traveled around the world and had to get shots to go to different places. If I got to show, hey, I got a vaccine, whatever, I'm not going to get a false ID about it. I made it to the other side. Somebody was just putting something about being vaccinated. I made it to the other. Okay. I'm going to get vaccinated. I'll do it. Nanobots. Exactly, Hector. But again, what part of your soul must die? The part that says, I'm not going to get a vaccine. Oh, yeah. Producer Stanton just posted the douchebag earrings. Thank you. In a douchebag. Thank you. That's exactly what they look like, Stanton. I'm not gonna fight it. I'm not gonna die on that hill. I'm gonna get the vaccine. And I'll carry a card around that says I got it. Because we're on the other side. We are on the other side of this. Disneyland is reopening. I was in Universal yesterday. All day, Universal Studios. Was it crowded? No. They could only take X amount of people for what was called Taste of Universal. And you had to buy a ticket. It was like $48. And you got 5 tabs. So it was roughly $10 per tab where you could get food and drinks. In case you didn't know this, a soft drink at Universal is $8. But of course, me being me, I figured out, like, don't waste your money on drinks. Pay for the drink, use your 5 tabs for food. So I had fish and chips in Hogwarts, and I got a big donut in Simpson Land. It's really a piece of cake. It's a big donut. It's a big giant donut. I brought home a donut and a turkey leg for my mother. And what else did I get? It doesn't really matter. What I'm saying is, it was worth the $50 to be outside in the sunshine, seeing the children, seeing the smoke come out of the train, the Hogwarts Express. And pretty soon it's just going to be open and we can go. And to me, having Universal open, having Disneyland open, having restaurants at 25, I think it's 25% indoors now in LA. I actually ate inside a booth in a restaurant this week. They were things that I didn't even realize how much they meant to me, how special they are, how exciting they are. Just booking an appointment for the gym at midnight tonight is like waiting for November Rain by Guns N' Roses. Who doesn't remember that video? With the crane shot, that overhead crane of Slash and the guitar. That was like the best. With Stephanie Seymour. It's hard to believe that video, and I'm not looking at notes. You guys can tell I'm looking right at you. That video came out probably 29 years ago, 28 years ago. It was fantastic. It was delightful to wait for the album. It's so crazy to me to think about albums. And I have a house full of vinyl. That moment where you have the new album in your hand just came out. I remember my dad coming home in the fall of 1969 with Abbey Road. He went to a record store just to buy the Beatles' Abbey Road, which had just come out. What is going to excite you moving forward? Today is the first day of spring. The clock sprung forward last week, and we got that extra day, that extra hour. Say hi to Mom for me, please. Yes, Sharon. My goodness, Sharon Reinblatt's on here. It's amazing. This is like a Saturday night cocktail party. All my people that I love are on here. And as a matter of fact, Sharon knows, she's known me since I was in 6th grade. 6th grade, I met Sharon. The summer before 6th grade. When we used to have, remember record cases that were plastic and the stem went down the middle of your 45s, then you twist it to lock it. And you would carry your 45s that you'd written your name in a Sharpie on the 45. And you were excited to go to a party with your 45s. And of course, the little adapter in the middle, the little plastic thing you'd snap. And I remember in 6th grade, I had a birthday party. And this boy named Robert, who I had a huge crush on, next door neighbor, he had like reddish hair, which is unusual for a Cuban. He gave me 4 45s as my birthday gift. He gave me Nothing from Nothing by Billy Preston, which I love. He gave me, I'm not going to lie to you, I forget 2 of them. but the two that I loved were Nothing from Nothing and Andy Kim, Rock Me Gently. Yeah, Rock Me Gently, which was used in an episode of Ray Donovan that I rewatched the final part of that episode 3 times just to hear that song and remember how excited I was to have that 45. I'm talking about things going all the way back that were exciting for me. As a matter of fact, for the record, my dear friend Sherry from Miami contacted me because the 50-year anniversary of Walt Disney World is this October 18th. 50 years. Walt Disney World this October. And Disney World opened before Epcot. There was Disney World and then there was Epcot. And I remember going to Disney World when they had the A, B, C, D, E tickets. And the E tickets were the ones. That was Pirates of the Caribbean and the Haunted Mansion. I hope that these things I'm talking about are resonating with you, with your summers, with your childhood, with your waiting in line, with the things that made you happy, that were worth anything to you, that whatever part of your soul had to die to make it okay. I think you understand what I'm saying, that arbitrary little thing inside of us that we all have that just snags you like a nail that needs to be hammered back down and smooth. Those e-tickets were great. That's right, Liz. But you know how sometimes in an old barn or somewhere there's a nail that sticks out a little bit and you don't know it's there till it snags your clothing, or you see like a little bit of hay wrapped around it because it's caught a horse blanket. Or I remember when I used to ride horses as a child, you have those nails you have to be aware of. And our personalities have stuff like that. We have those not smooth, sticking out, pointy parts of us. In fact, I love on Downton Abbey when somebody's being challenging, Mary frequently says, "Don't be spiky. Don't be spiky, Granny." And I know what that means. And stuff gets wrapped around it and hooked on it and snagged on it and torn on it. Because there's little parts of us that are sharp, that are harsh, that keep us from being aerodynamic and spiritually smooth and able to move from place to place with momentum and excitement and enthusiasm. And I have them as much as you do. I do, I promise. You're aging me. No, I'm not, Yvette. I'm not aging you. I every once in a while, and I won't even name any names because you can fill in the blanks. Every once in a while, I will forget how fortunate I am. I will. I'll just forget. And I'll wake up and I'll in the middle of the night, before I realize I'm reaching for the haterade, I'm drinking gulps of haterade and I'm thinking, why is this comedian making this much money? I'm as funny as they are. Or why is so-and-so, playing this big venue? Well, comparison is the thief of joy. One of the presidents said that. I think it's Franklin Delano Roosevelt, but I looked it up once. But I do know the quote is, comparison is the thief of joy. And if we compare ourselves to the way other people have weathered the storm of the last year, there will be people that did a lot better than you did, than I did. But there's always going to be people that didn't. And in my particular case, I gulped down a bunch of haterade in the middle of the night last night. I was feeling extremely anxietal. I was very concerned, once the world opens back up, what does that mean to me? Am I going to go back on ships? Am I going to tour? Is it going to be a combo? What is my world going to look like? I am in an audience-based business. My business, my dollars and cents, is reliant on gatherings. Or is it? Is it? Is it just being face to face? The blessing of COVID for me was that died. The whole notion of analog. You know, when people talk about scalable businesses or mailbox money or having things, you know, grow when you're not there. I've always been so, I don't want to say controlling. It's not about controlling, it's hands-on. My entire career, all I've done is write jokes, stories, content for the immediate people around me. Whoever was in my audience, the 150, 200, 250, 500, you know, big audiences. And then I went on the radio and I would see my numbers, my shows in Indianapolis, San Diego, and here, KFI, have done well. And I would be told by my program director on any given day or night, between 70 or 100,000 people were listening in real time, because that's how radio worked in the early 2000s up until recently, in real time, before podcasting. And the thought that a stadium full, a large stadium, a soccer stadium full of people were listening to me when I was alone in a studio was wonderful and terribly made. You see how that works? It was the notion of a responsibility that when you have people's attention, their currency, their energy, what's the exchange? What's the proper exchange? If you're giving me your time and your attention, what is the exchange? What am I giving you back? Is it haterade? Is it the right amount? I believe so, because I keep showing up and you keep showing up. And then I kept sort of thinking about podcasts and downloads. And then I did television specials. And then clips of those specials went viral. And I found out that 2.5 million people saw a clip from Latin Divas that says men want 3 things. And that blew my mind. 2.5 million people. Oh, Dallas, Texas loves Monique. Monique loves Dallas, Texas. And here's the weird thing, is that during COVID, it's never been a numbers game. The fact that I have 5,020 subscribers on this channel, it's not about 5,000 people. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. That's selling out a 500-seat venue 10 times. Those many people bought tickets to my YouTube channel. It's never about a specific, I love indie, Tom. When I lived there, I loved it. It was never about the specific numbers. It's not a quantifiable, codifiable thing. See, that's why apps are challenging to me, because you're quantified and codified. You type in your name and then you have to have a password. And then if you forget your password, you have to figure out what email you used. And maybe you have one email that you use for all of your, some people are very organized. They have like a fake email they use for all their apps, but then it won't work with your iCloud. And I'm learning all of these things. But the whole notion of constantly being codified and quantified. You know, you have this much space left on your iCloud account. You have this many photographs on your phone. You have this much memory. Everything is codified and quantified. And that goes against the way my mind works. Because the things that matter to me, when I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm chugging the haterade, the things that matter to me, how do you measure somebody saying Indy loves Monique. What's the price tag on that? What's the exchange rate? Well, the currency. I give you jokes, you give me love. I'm not good at that. I'm not good at knowing what a minute of my time is worth to help a friend in need or to answer a phone call. I know what I charge for a Zoom. I know what I charge for a comedy club. I know that even that is elastic depending on if the club is a friend and me showing up helps him. I'm going to be in Colorado Springs. Speaking of working at below value, I'm going to be in Colorado Springs June 11th. And I've been playing that club since 1994. And it was the first club that I played last year when they were able to open up in Colorado partially at 25% attendance. And even though I couldn't get paid my full because of the 25%, I said, you know what, I'm going to go anyway because I can. You know, what price can you put on showing up and helping your friend keep his club? Someone you've known since 1994, since the beginning of your career. So I can tell you that on the other side of this, I can't speak to, you know, what my job is going to be and how much money I'm going to make at my job and what the venues are going to be. Because this has opened a whole door that I never even knew was in the hall. It was like, you know how they have those fake bookcases and then it turns out there's a door and then it leads to a secret passageway? That's what COVID has been for me. Some secret door opened to a passageway of a place where the way that my mind works, that things can't be specifically codified and quantified, they live. They live in that wonderful secret ballroom I found behind the doorway that I never knew was there. That I can engage David Jonas in the UK and Amber Hassan in the Canary Islands. I would have never met anybody from the Canary Islands in my day-to-day life. I've never been on a cruise ship that goes to the Canary Islands. I don't even know anybody that's been to the Canary Islands. And now I have a friend there, a good friend. She's invited me to visit. I'm pretty darn excited about it. I have to tell you that whatever is behind me, you know, I've said it 3 different times. 3's a charm. Over the last year, I've said it twice, and today's the 3rd time, is that if you're unclear of what's ahead of you, don't worry about stepping into the void or just moving forward in some way. You know, what is behind you, I always go back to the Gumball Rally where I saw that movie as a kid in a summer at a drive-in. It was a wonderful summer in Long Island, visiting my cousins. And we took in a double feature. We went and saw Freebie and the Bean and the Gumball Rally with my Uncle Frankie. And I'll never forget it because that line has stayed with me my whole life, where Raul Julia gets in the car and he grabs the mirror and, you know, the first rule of Italian driving: what is behind you does not matter.
And now, my friend, the first rule of Italian driving. What's behind me is not important.
What is behind me is not important is actually the line. Not doesn't matter. Thank you, producer Stanton. I love that so much. Because today is the first day of spring and the world is opening back up. And what is behind me is not important. We're moving forward. Now, I want to address a couple of stories this week because it wouldn't be talk of our times if we didn't talk about our times. And I'm not going to dig in too far because you know that's not my brand. You know, I always like to tell people I'm a very patriotic person, but I'm not a political person, and I don't dive into things that are very charged or could create a situation where someone would feel the need to get spiky. But my sister, and there's two things that have challenged me in the last few weeks, mostly because people ask my opinion. People want to know what I think, my friends. So let me go back to discussing the Oprah interview with Meghan and Harry. I'm not going to say I don't care, because I really don't, but I've already said that. But my father used to always say that evil always overplays its hand. Now, that doesn't mean evil like Hitler evil. That just means bad intent. Somebody's just, no pun intended in Meghan Markle's world, but if somebody's a bad actor, they're just not a good person. Oh, thank you for wishing me luck in Colorado. If that part of your soul that hasn't died, which is, you know, a certain type of attention that you need. We all love attention. I wouldn't be a comedian if I didn't like attention. I would have just been a writer. I could have even written under a nom de plume and you wouldn't even know me. Like Jonathan Franzen, who wrote one of the best books I've ever read in my life, actually two, Freedom, but before that, The Corrections, which is genius. It's totally genius. Going full circle, he turned down, when she still had a show, he turned down being one of Oprah's Book of the Month. He's like, thank you, no, not for me. He's just a private man who writes exceptional books. I think it won the book award, whatever that is, where you get like among libraries and literati. But it's such a great book, The Corrections. And then I read his book Freedom, and it knocked my socks off. And now I own Purity, but I haven't read it yet. But Jonathan Franzen does not seek attention, even though he is a brilliant next level writer. He's like, thank you, no. I'm okay. I'm all good. I don't need to be your book of the month. Thank you. And for whatever it's worth, because I see what people post, and you know, and I get it. I get that, you know, we feel bad if somebody's feeling challenged or mentally stressed or contemplated suicide. I get all of that part. But if living in Montecito, wearing a $4,300 dress, and with a man who adores you and an adorable baby, you can't be happy, whoa. Where does that leave us? Where does that leave us poor schmucks? Like, if you're suicidal, where does that leave people that aren't wearing a $4,300 dress with an adorable baby and adoring husband? Wow. You know, so to answer your question, I think that her need for sympathy and attention pushed her into a realm that made her seem, at the very least, ungrateful, and at the most, spiky. And again, not great timing with Prince Philip. I mean, he's still alive. He's hanging in there. By all accounts, he's still alive. I think in the world we live in, if Prince Philip had gone tits up, we'd know. They can't control the narrative that much. I do believe Fidel Castro died way before they said, and it was like Weekend at Bernie's with the same tracksuit, but that's another story, and that was a few years ago. I think that was before Instagram. I think if Fidel Castro, there'd have been pictures of him in his tracksuit looking totally dead. Now, the second thing that people have been talking to me a lot about this week is this rise in, I don't even like saying it out loud, in mistreatment, maligning, and stereotyping of Asians and Asian Americans. My family lives in San Francisco. My sister-in-law is 100% Chinese, and my niece is half Chinese. So I'm going to go back in history a little bit in order to go forward. When I was a stand-up that used to tour the world for the USO, I went many times to Japan and Korea. I've not been to China because we don't have military bases there, but I spent a great deal of time in Asia. I probably went to Japan 12 times, Korea almost as many times, loved the culture. In fact, in LA, I lived in Koreatown because it was just a great part of town and the rents were reasonable. Now, I remember being in what was called a hardship base, Kunsan base. I think it was Kunsan, which was very far south. And when they call it a hardship base, that means that there are no women. Now, this was 1997, maybe 98, that I went to this base and performed. And in Korea, they have what's called juicy girls. And the juicy girls work in strip clubs. And the way they are paid and the way they culturally structure strip clubs is that you don't pay the stripper and you don't tip the stripper. You buy this incredibly expensive juice, like orange juice or pomegranate juice. It's not even spiked with alcohol. That's just your ticket to see the naked girls, is that you buy this expensive juice. And for the record, having traveled extensively in these two countries, anyway, there was an American base. Outside the gates of the base, there was a whole secondary sort of street of commerce, obviously geared to service the base. You had, I mean, these things were in my act. The banana lady, there was a woman who could cut bananas without the benefit of a knife. I'm not even going to just paint a picture in your head. But we created parts of our culture in other countries where there were, that's not part of their culture. They have, in Japan, I believe it's Geishas, but that's not a strip club like an American style strip club. And I remember that there was one guy in the hardship base that had a woman in the audience sitting next to him watching the show who was clearly Asian. Well, it was his wife. And because I used to do crowd work, I made some comment about, how come you're the one guy that has a pretty lady here? And everybody jumped on him like a ton of bricks and said, he's with a juicy girl. He married a juicy girl. What an idiot. Nobody marries a juicy girl. But evidently this guy was far from home and this girl wanted to be an American citizen, and maybe they were in love or maybe they weren't. I don't care. But the whole base maligned and tormented him for having married a juicy girl. Now, while I was over there, I saw many unattractive, in every sense of the word. I'm not just talking obese or greasy hair or bad manners or, ignorant. I saw many American males that in the United States would not be able to get any sort of attractive woman dating, if you want to call it dating, the locals. Whether it happened less in Japan because culturally that's a different mindset, but in Korea it was extremely common. And they would marry him and bring him home. Okay, great, fine. But the point I'm making is that maybe it goes all the way back to World War II. There's been a certain fetishizing of Asian females in our culture. So forget the random acts of violence like two elderly Chinese people in San Francisco. But this particular situation that happened in Atlanta, where he said, it is not a hate crime. I'm not against Asians. This was a temptation because these places, and I can't speak with authority because I'm not in Atlanta and I don't know what goes on. But I can tell you, as a female road comic, that along many a truck stop, there was always an Asian massage parlor pretty close to a Stuckey's or a Shoney's. They were never near Cracker Barrels, but you get my point. And he claims to have killed these people because they were tempting him. He was a sex addict or a porn addict or whatever, and that he did this out of, trying to eradicate temptation, and that it's not a hate crime. And he's arguing with the state of Georgia that he did not commit a hate crime. But at the end of the day, you can't separate the fetishizing of immigrant women who do what it takes to have a life for themselves or their families. Again, no judgment. If this is a mani-pedi happy ending situation, zero judgment. Whether it's legal or illegal is irrelevant. Nobody has the right to kill any sort of I don't even want to say sex worker, but nobody has a right to kill an individual because they are creating a temptation for you that you lack self-governance. And I don't think that he has the right to argue that it wasn't a hate crime. I don't think the killer gets to pick. I don't think you get to say, yes, it is a hate crime. You hated these women because you fetishized them and they brought you some sort of release from your horrible life or existence or whatever was going on in your head. And it most certainly was a hate crime. And I feel like there has to be a conversation begun slowly but surely where all of these movements, because nothing happens in a vacuum, whether it's sex workers or Asians or Black Lives Matters or Me Too or trans, whatever it is, nothing happens in a vacuum. And if you hurt another individual based on some particular thing about them that they can't control, they happen to be Asian or trans or Black, that is a hate crime and should be charged as such. And we should become more diligent as a nation about making absolutely certain that the punishment fits the crime. I'm sorry, I know that sounds incredibly harsh. But maybe if we have open discussions about the actual crime itself and the punishment fitting the crime itself, whether or not it will be a deterrent for people that are going to commit the crime anyway is irrelevant. The conversation in itself exposes people to new ways of thinking and understanding how things come to be. Because everything has a pathology, an origin, a reason. Everything. And people's feelings towards other people sometimes is just as simple as your parents were racist, so you're racist. But once you have a conversation with somebody, you say, you know what? That part of my soul needed to die. I'm okay with these people. Left to my own devices and my own thought process, that I wasn't inculcated with some thought before I knew any better myself. I'm okay with these people. So I'm okay with everyone. I genuinely am, and I'm excited about spring. And I don't like to talk about these things, but I believe that you guys want to hear what I have to say, because a lot of people have asked me privately, so why not assume that my friends that I don't have face-to-face meetings with would want to know as well. And I'm so grateful for your time and your attention. And I believe that we have a nice balance. And I believe that for all the currency you give me, I do my level best to give you ways of viewing things and thinking about them that uplift your spirit, or at the very least, maybe open a door down a hall to a room that you'll enjoy so much more than the one you're in. So until next Saturday night, I'm at a comedy club in Phoenix, but I'll figure out with producer Stanton how to make something work. So until next Saturday, which will be 1 year since I started this talk of our times, which shows no sign of stopping, is what I meant to say. Until next Saturday, love hard, forgive harder, and get as happy as you can, as fast as you can. Good night. Thank you. It's been a blessing. I've loved seeing all of your names. So good night.